it's beyond me that apparently from the federal government, from the Homeland Security Director herself, has already determined who this person was, what their motive was, and they hadn't even been taken out of the vehicle. We're not living in a normal world.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz reacting to an ICE agent shooting and killing a woman in her car yesterday morning in Minneapolis. We're going to go through what happened and the response from the Trump administration, which does not fit with multiple videos recorded at the scene. Plus, we will dig into President Trump's wide-ranging interview with the New York Times, telling the paper only time will tell when it comes to how long the United States looks to control Venezuela. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It is Thursday, January 8th. Along with Joe, Willie, and me, we have the co-host of our 9 a.m. hour, staff writer at The Atlantic, Jonathan Lemire, the host of Politics Nation on MS Now, Reverend Al Sharpton. He is the president of the National Action Network. And we begin this morning in Minneapolis, where emotions are running high after that fatal shooting yesterday morning. The Minnesota Star-Tribune identified the victim as Renee Nicole Good, a local resident, after speaking to her mother. Good was shot in the head in a residential neighborhood south of downtown during an immigration crackdown. The chaotic incident was recorded by several witnesses. We're going to take you through what happened step by step, but we do want to warn you that the video is extremely disturbing. We don't yet know exactly what happened before the video. You will immediately see a gray SUV speed off and a gray truck pull up to the left side of the maroon SUV. Two officers get out of the truck and approach the SUV, with one of them pulling on the driver's door handle. That's important. The driver then puts the car in reverse, appearing to try to turn away from the scene. And that's when another officer approaches the front of the vehicle. You'll then see the officer in front of the car fire a shot into the windshield. And as the driver continues to turn to the right, he fires two more shots into the driver's side window as the car moves past.
He fires
officers.
those shots. Do we have those shots? Do we have the slow motion going on, Alex, from the side? Because from the...
It's there.
Okay.
The driver accelerates and moments later crashes into two cars parked near the curb and a light pole. It's not clear from the videos if the vehicle makes contact with the officer, and there's no indication. Here's the slow-mo of whether the woman had interactions with the ICE agents earlier.
And according to sound and most people that have seen this, he fired two additional shots from the side at point-blank range, right in to this 37-year-old mother's head, killing her. Look at this. And again, those suggesting that he was in danger of his life, let's just freeze it right there, Willie. We're going to have experts on who know about this, but I think we all have probably read a lot of regulations on what law enforcement officers are supposed to do, what ICE officers are supposed to do. There is nothing, absolutely nothing, and any of the materials that I have seen, and if some of the law enforcement officers who come on this show perhaps have better information or more updated information and guidelines than me, maybe they can share that with us, but suggests that any ICE agent has the authority to shoot at a driver in a car, an American driver in a car, or any driver in a car, from the side where he is out of danger at point blank range at their head.
We're going to ask experts about that, but it seems pretty clear the answer to that is no. The protocol does not allow for that. What we've heard from the administration, we'll get through this in a couple of minutes, is that the car was weaponized, that the woman was attempting to ram those ICE agents.
We're talking about this Honda pilot,
yes,
that was slowly turning the wheels to get out of there.
We don't see any ramming, certainly in the video there. As Mika said, we want to know what happened before that, because the administration is giving an account that simply doesn't line up with the video we've seen. If there's other video, if someone's seen something else, we need to see that, and soon. So let's see what happens next. After the shooting, the agent who fired the shots walks up to the vehicle then walks away, telling other agents to call 911. As I said, Homeland Security.
But wait, hold on. This officer's the officer that the president said he was surprised he stayed alive.
Right.
And he's probably in the hospital right now. He doesn't look to be fine. He doesn't look as if he's, in fact, got any problems at all with what's just happened, and certainly no physical problems whatsoever.
No,
One of the reasons we're showing the video is because the administration, including Kristi Noem, was so quick to say and conclude what happened here. And it's extremely disturbing video. There's blood on the ground.
Yeah.
It's as bad as it gets, but in order to try and give this the light of day, given the conclusions that were made so quickly, the video is being shown.
Well, there are many times, and there will be some ambiguities, especially with the first shot, that I think a lot of law enforcement officers, a lot of advocates will be debating about for some time. You look at guidelines, a police officer or law enforcement, it's not supposed to place himself in front of a car. That's just common knowledge. I will say, though, there is no ambiguity that Kristi Noem got out immediately, lied, talked about snowbanks, talked about a lot of things that did not appear to be in any of these videos. And it was just this immediate reaction. The videos that are shown clearly underline the fact that you have someone responsible for this ultimately, that got out as quickly as she could at another event without the facts and lied to the American people, and of course branded this victim, this 37-year-old mother who now has an orphaned child, a domestic terrorist, when there's no evidence of that whatsoever. It's just a bold-faced lie.
And again, our viewers are watching this along with us. You can ask yourself, in this video, what we're seeing right here, is that officer's life in danger? Is the required response here 3 shots, some of them striking this woman in the head and killing her instantly? Ask yourself that question as you watch that video. And as you say, Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, jumped out immediately at a public event, drew conclusions, gave an account of what happened, followed up later by President Trump, that just does not match with what we've seen or the eyewitness accounts that we've heard. So Secretary Noem, even as these videos of the incident were just coming out, the investigation hadn't even begun, spoke about it.
It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased.
You know, everything about the fact that she was hit and she's deceased in that statement was wrong. Everything she said in that statement was wrong. It was ICE agents that came rushing up to this 37-year-old mother and immediately surrounded her, started pulling on her door, started shouting at her. One circled around to the front, which again, they're not to get in front of cars, and then fired twice at her from the video evidence we've seen and the analysis that we've heard, fired twice at her at point-blank range, while you had ICE agents behind sort of running away from the shooting. Nobody was endangered there except people around the shooter, who fired 3 gunshots on a crowded street.
And again, the secretary speaking before anyone really knew anything except for perhaps this agent's account of what happened, and going so far as to call the woman who was dead, shot in the head in her car, a domestic terrorist. In a social media post, President Trump also calling the shooting an act of self-defense. He wrote this, quote, "The woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer." Again, You've seen the video. We've seen the video. Our viewers have watched the video. Unless there's something that preceded what we've all seen and what eyewitnesses have told us, and we're open to that, there was no one running over any ICE agent there.
No, the footage we've all have so far of what precipitated the shooting is the woman in her minivan. Actually, you see her stick her hand out the window and wave a car through. One of the ICE agent's cars drives through. Like, that's not, you would think, the behavior of someone who is then planning to use their vehicle as a weapon when she's letting another car drive through. It's unclear why that agent also was grabbing at the door handle. That seems like it escalated the situation dramatically. Quite possibly this woman very afraid. Like, that's why she drove away.
Again, and by the way, a lot of commentary from law enforcement officers saying ICE agents do not have the right to go up and grab at people's cars and order them out of their cars.
Now, obviously, you're supposed to cooperate with what a law enforcement officer says, but she understandably probably panicked in that situation. Why is this masked man
coming after me
and grabbing at my door handle here? And look, I covered the NYPD for a long time. Rev, I know you obviously have a lot of experience at shootings like this, where it happens really fast. There's really quick reaction to it. And maybe there are people who will say that first shot was justified. It's hard to suggest that second and third could be, but that because it happens so fast, that's why these officers have training. You do this for months and years, so you make the right decisions.
Let's talk about the training. The training, we've had reports on this. The training has been slashed.
Yep.
I find it so deeply ironic that Pete Hegseth loves going around talking about fat people in the military. Have you looked at the people that they've rushed into ICE? Out of shape, ill-trained, ill-prepared. We've seen videos of these guys with no training yanking guns out at the most inappropriate times and pointing them at people where there's no reason to be pointing guns at protests where they're not in danger. So, again, I've heard other people say this. I feared for everybody involved, including these untrained officers, being in this situation where they don't have the training to know how to de-escalate or know when they should engage, when they should take their guns out, when this was a tragedy that was waiting to happen, in large part because so many of these people that they rushed in are ill-suited to serve not only for ICE, but for any law enforcement agency. They're not ready. They're not in shape. So many of them not in shape. It's been a tragedy waiting to happen.
And it's difficult to see how that officer would think his life was in jeopardy in that moment. There's a heartbreaking image that one of the local media outlets took of in the aftermath of this, where you see the bloodied airbag and the glove compartment of this woman's car is filled with stuffed animals. For her child. Also, questions being raised about there's a neighbor who lives right there who's a doctor. There's video of this. He's screaming, "Hey, let me go help! Let me go help!" ICE agents tell him no. This woman does not receive any medical help for many minutes.
And can I ask, who are ICE agents to stop ambulances, to stop doctors from going in and trying to save a woman's life? Why do they have the authority to stop doctors from trying to save the life of somebody that an ICE shooter has shot at point blank range 3 times?
They should not have the authority to do it. I mean, everything around this that we know so far, and we agree that we don't know everything, but from what we've seen, is as ugly as you can get. And clearly what a lot of people were raising questions about. I think that 2 things that I thought about this morning is one, that one of the immediate heroes is one of the neighbors that videotaped this. I will never forget in 1991 when we had a police beating of Rodney King, a racial police beating. What people always forget, it was a white guy who was just at his house that happened to video it, that woke the whole nation up to what many of us were saying about police brutality.
Right.
Whoever this bystander was that filmed this is the one that saved this country from just going by what Noam had to say, and later President Trump. by videoing this, because suppose if there was no video, we would believe this woman was some domestic terrorist,
right,
which she was not. This is a 37-year-old woman, mother, white woman at that, that was there. And from all we can see, there was certainly no terrorism, no justification of what happened here.
And the mayor and the governor said many times yesterday, they have been saying for weeks and weeks now that something like this was inevitable.
Right.
When you have these ICE agents coming in, not in sync with local authorities, unexpected, creating fear and chaos in the community, the one thing they didn't express yesterday in their comments was surprise, because this was bound to happen given the complete lack of organization and the chaos that's being created by ICE coming into communities.
Just a complete lack of discipline within the organization. From the very top, where you saw Kristi Noem go out and just lie to the American people. She didn't have the information. She just lied through the training programs that's been slashed to what's happening on the ground every day. Kristi Noem needs to move on. There had been some reporting before the possibility of Glenn Youngkin taking that position and Kristi Noem leaving. If the Trump administration wants to get other things done, it's much better for them to get rid of Kristi Noem right now, because it really couldn't be much worse than it already is right now.